I think the most challenging film scene in the film was doing the boat scene when we had to fall into this murky lake twice in the ice-cold spring waters of the Leopoldskron castle. It was murky and cold, and Robert Weiss wasn't completely pleased with the first shot, so he says, okay, everybody dry off, change your clothes, we're going to do it again. For me anyway, that was the most challenging one.
Challenging? I think from a choreography point of view, outside of the dancing, was the bicycle scene, where we had to do the bicycles and basically ride bicycles in formation without crashing into each other, without, you know, basically having a major wreck. And that took a good day's worth of practice and working it out before we actually finally got it down. And Debbie just about rear-ended me. Oh,
I was a very good bike rider at that point.
You were 5, that's impossible.
I was 7 and I was good already. Started right
now.
We're like a real family.
Well, they were very wonderful professional actors, you know, and I think that they sort of chose to embody their roles, you know, sort of off the camera. And Christopher was a little standoffish to us, a little bit intimidating to me. And the interesting thing is that he's not like that in real life. I mean, he's just not that way at all. He's a very warm, loving soul. You know, I've gotten to know him as an adult.
Yeah.
And Julie would get down on the floor and play with us, you know, and she just sort of, you know, embraced us.
Kind of took on the role.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, the idea of Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer as parent figures, in a funny way, for those of us who continued as actors for the rest of our lives, they were, in the fact that they set an example of the way to behave on a film set as far as being prepared, well rehearsed, line perfect. Julie never complained. She was 27 years old and had the entire responsibility of that film on her shoulders. Basically the responsibility of keeping 20th Century Fox alive as a studio. And not once did she ever have a crossword to anybody, and she worked harder than anyone else. And I know for me, in a way it was like a parent, because it set an example for me that to this day, if I'm working on a film or a television show, if I start to feel a little bit fed up, I remember the way she behaved and the way Christopher behaved. So in that regard, from an acting point of view, they were parental, I would say. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, my favorite song from the film, I think, is, Do Re Mi, because I loved running all over town and shooting in all the different locations and wearing all the different clothes, and you know, it was just a really fun song to perform.
I think in my case, whenever anybody asks me what my favorite song is in the film, I mean, I love them all. It's hard to tell when it's such a great score, but I love the lyrics to Something Good because of what the message of that song, and also I would say Climbed Every Mountain, because as we've said before, you know, the original title of that song when Oscar Hammerstein wrote it, it was called Face Life. And when you think about it, that kind of is the message of the song, is that just whatever the obstacle is in front of you, find a way to conquer it. So I would say,
all the songs that you didn't do.
Well, that's true, but I maybe I listened to them more because I wasn't hearing my own mistakes. But I love those two songs.
Oh, mine was, it changes, depends on my mood. I love them all, but sometimes The Lonely Goat Herd, because it's very upbeat, fun. I like Do Re Mi, but probably my top favorite would be Edelweiss, because it's very special and very heartfelt and just makes me happy and not sad, but I get tears in my eyes. It makes me cry.
Certainly the most emotional one for me is also Edelweiss, but they've also mentioned their feelings about the other songs, which, interestingly enough, I have the very similar feelings to climb every mountain. Nikki has made me think a lot more about something good. And the goat herd. We had a kick doing that with the puppets. That was just great fun.
Yes, in fact, I think the puppet sequence probably, as sheer just enjoyment for filming.
Yeah.
Because as a child, you feel such a great sense of accomplishment learning how to work those puppets. And it was a fun song, and we got to do it with Julie. And so it kind of had everything in it that you wanted to do as a child. So, yeah, it was a lovely, lovely number.
We wanted to take the puppets home at the Gwendolyn.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there was the scene where we were all in the trees when Chris Plummer and the Baroness were coming back with Uncle Max. But they had to stop the traffic every once in a while to let the regular cars through. But we stayed in the trees as the cars came through. And these were oak trees, and oak trees have acorns, and cars have sunroofs. So it was a bit of a target-rich environment at times. As a car would go by, the challenge to drill an acorn down through a moving sunroof, which occurred
This
once.
is all new information. I had no idea you were doing this juvenile delinquent behavior.
Oh, we had fun with those shoes.
But we did. We swapped the shoes in the hotel.
They would
The
put them
people
out
left
so
outside their doors.
people would, now I notice that they have a machine on the floor
Yes.
where we polish and I wondered, well, is that because of us? You know, is that
50 years of history behind it.
because
Yes.
we would start at one end of the hallway, and the other, you would be like at one end, and I'd be at the other end, and you would be in the middle somewhere, and we go, okay, go, and I'd pick up the shoes and run, and you pick up the shoes and run, and so people would come out in the morning at the hotel, and they would find shoes that weren't theirs. You know, I mean, the entire floor.
Oh, we'd move them from floors. Take all the ones from the fifth floor and move them to the third floor.
And weren't you guys also adding numbers to the breakfast orders that they would put out on the
Oh
doorknobs
yeah,
the
we'd go
night
down the
before?
hallway
That
and
was
we
a
would
terrible
we'd
thing
say
to
we
do.
need 5
Oh, that's right.
orders of scrambled eggs.
Oh, yeah.
You were a little girl.
You were a child. You weren't. This was teenager behavior. Not,
I was in bed.
yes, you were a little girl.
Yes,
Fun
we were
time.
very professional at
Yes.
times. By the way, we weren't the only ones playing jokes. Remember when they put that giant rubber tarantula under the covers on the bed, and Julie was rehearsing that part of the scene where she throws the covers back after she hears about the
I
spiders?
didn't know that.
I did not know
And
that.
she
that's a
jumped
bonus.
right into
Because somebody in the crew
Yeah.
had stuck it in there. That's funny.
she jumped right into somebody's arms. Well, yes, and yes.
I get asked often if I have a pink parasol, and I actually have 2 because I had a fan send me from London, actually, 2 pink parasols. One on it says Marta from The Sound of Music, and the other one is just plain. Beautiful, beautiful umbrellas.
Yeah, I have an awful lot of people who love to come up to me and say adieu, adieu to you, adieu, adieu. And it's just, for some reason, they just can't resist saying that when they see me. And I had a stewardess on the plane just yesterday saying exactly that.
No.
And they always think, he will have never heard this before. He'll think this is so funny, you know, and you're acting your little head off like, oh, how clever of you to think of that. Who would have thought to say adieu, adieu, adieu?
To you and
Yeah.
Well, I don't walk around with a jar of spiders in my hands.
That's right.
So, yeah, I get asked, do you have spiders? Do you actually have a jar? No, I don't have a jar of
But
spiders.
by the
I've heard of it, but I can't imagine.
You'd be a brave person to try
I
to
can't
reproduce
imagine.
it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to make a sequel, make it better.
Yeah.
Well, I think the problem is
Than
if
the
you're going to make a
original?
sequel, you have to find another Julie Andrews, and there ain't another Julie
No.
Andrews.
No.
No.
So it would be a
I
disastrous
can't
mistake.
imagine.
And then what would be the sequel?
Then
Vermont?
I heard of
Yeah.
a continuation of
Okay.
what happened
The
after
singing.
they got back.
I mean,
or after they got
apparently,
back.
I mean, here in Austria, they have made a movie about the Von Trapp family recently, just in the last year.
Yeah.
But that's not making the Sound of Music.
No.
Gosh, well,
Yeah.
the scenery, you know, all the different places that we filmed in. you know, just to go by and see them and be there again is just very special.
My favorite thing about Salzburg is the fact that it never changes.
It doesn't change, yeah.
That it's timeless. I mean, its beauty, you know, you can be away for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, come back and you can walk down the streets and they will be as they were. And you know, that to me is a real gift, and it's extraordinary beauty. And the people.
I personally like the Mirabelle Gardens because of all the different flowers. They have gardens where they're just designs in the dirt. It's the most beautiful thing, and that partially inspired me to do what I do for a living now, as I'm a floral designer. So I design weddings and I design small gardens and things, and that's probably, I used to spend more time in the gardens than anywhere else.
What's special to me is I realize that it feels very familiar. You know, we filmed in '64, then we were back in 2000. Actually, I had 2 trips in 2000, so this would make my 4th. And even back then, it just felt familiar, as if we have lived here much longer than the actual time that we spent. And I think in part it's because of what Nikki mentioned. Things simply, you can't be moving buildings around. Buildings aren't necessarily getting torn down to be replaced by something modern. It's all very familiar, and it allows us to get around town just based on memories from even 50 years ago.
And we're so fortunate that way, because most people, if you go back to where you were 50 years ago in your childhood when you were 13, if you go back to where you were at 13, it will have changed. It won't, the neighborhood won't look the same. You know, your old school's been knocked down and a new school's been put up, or the shop you used to go to with your mother is no longer there. We have the huge advantage that something that was so important in our lives is there forever. And so it's like a little bit of our past and of who we are that is there always. So it's a fantastic city in that way.